welcome Z.
Hi Dee, I'm super excited to talk to you today. Thank you for having me on.
Z, people that know you in the public domain know you for a number of reasons, but one is rugby. So at school you loved sport, you never really thought about playing rugby. At 14 you discovered rugby and fell in love. Take me to that moment.
Sure. So this was in high school, so at 14 years old. I was in a PE session and my PE teacher brought in some rugby balls and was like, right girls, we're going to do rugby today. And up until that point, I've actually never touched a rugby ball before. I've seen it on TV, just flicking through men playing rugby, but I didn't actually know women play rugby. But, I was for it. As soon as she said we're playing rugby, I was really excited. But I was the only one. All my friends and the people in my class, they were just like, rugby? Why do you want to play rugby? No, they didn't want to get on the floor, get dirty. They didn't want any of that rough and tumble. But for me, I was really excited. And the first time I touched the ball, I just, felt there's just something about touching a rugby ball and running. It just was so exhilarating. And from then, I just knew I loved the sport.
And subsequently, you kept with it. You started training at Ealing Trailfinders when you were 17. Then you went to university and you almost gave up. What happened there?
So at university, I always say it was the really interesting time throughout my rugby journey because I came into uni as a young black Muslim woman, still trying to find my feet, because at that age, you're just sort of leaving your parents under your parents' wing and you're sort of becoming a young adult. And it's sort of that stage in life where I feel like a lot of people are a bit lost and you have to sort of find yourself, like who are you away from home, so it was a time in my life where I felt like I was still sort of searching and learning about myself. But I knew I loved rugby, so I came into the space and I joined the local rugby team, which was at Hertfordshire. But actually I didn't join straight away. I waited until the second semester because I was really nervous and I wasn't sure if the rugby club would accept me.
What were you nervous about exactly? Because I guess it's about identity as well, isn't it? You're saying that at that point in your life, and every person heading off to university, I guess, is on a quest to find out who they are. But what was it for you that made you nervous?
I think it was around that time. Well, in the media, there was a lot of stuff about like Muslims and not I wouldn't call them Muslims, but extremists and just negative things about Muslims, and it's one of those things that projects into, I think, every Muslim. When you see something about terrorism on the TV, then all of a sudden you think, oh, like people are going to think I'm bad. People are going to associate me with those, evil people that are on the TV. And it was very hard living life whenever something happened on the TV as a Muslim. It was hard because it was like people would think that would associate them with you.
Totally.
And it's literally nothing like me and my family were nothing like what is being portrayed on TV. So I was sort of nervous that I'll join a new space and they would think that I was like that. They would think that I had extremist views, and it just made me really anxious. But I was just I held to the fact that I loved the sport, and I thought, let me just suck it up and go and see how it turns out. And I'm glad I did, actually.
How did you find the physicality of being on the pitch, particularly as a younger person? Because clearly, you dressed slightly differently from other people on the pitch. And I guess at university as well, for right or for wrong, the sport of rugby is associated with a lot of aggression on the pitch. It's associated with a lot of force, with a lot of partying off the pitch, consumption of alcohol and so forth. How were those sorts of challenges for you?
Yeah, they were quite difficult as well. So first of all, I looked different on a pitch, covered up, wearing a headscarf, but mainly like covering my arms and legs. And I had teammates who had beautiful legs. They're always out and, really, just outgoing. And I was there covered up. And I just, dawned on me that I was different from my teammates. I was different, not just like physically, but also obviously skin color. I was the only black person on my team for a while actually, and all of those things played in my mind, and it just made me question whether or not rugby was for me. If the space is actually where I belong, and it just. I really felt alone. I actually thought I was the only Muslim woman in the world that played rugby. Like it was, I had those kind of
How
thoughts,
did
and you
you?
can imagine.
But how did you see deal with those thoughts? Because in the moment they can be very burdensome and heavy. How did you cope and go beyond that?
Yeah, it was heavy, and it got to a point where actually I just thought this space is not for me, and maybe rugby, although I love it, maybe this is not my scene. And the thing that actually helped me to stay in the sport was two things. So one is a woman called Miguel Fonsi, who is a former rugby player. She used to play for England. She's a black woman, and also the fact that in the laws of rugby it said in black and white that you could wear a headscarf to play rugby. But up until that point, I actually didn't know about that rule until I actually went searching myself. So those two things really were the reason why I stuck into rugby, because Maggie, I sort of felt I related to her because she was another black woman. And I thought, actually, if she's playing for England and she's black as well, why can't I play, at grassroots level? So she really helped to cement the idea that I actually belong in rugby. And then also knowing that I could wear a headscarf, it meant that I didn't have to compromise my faith to play a sport that I love. So those are the two things that played a big role in me staying in the sport.
Did you ever feel that you wanted to no longer wear your headscarf? Did you ever feel that you just wanted to ditch it all and fit in?
That's a very good question. But I would not, no, I don't think I did. The only thing that I would say is that, so I joined, when I started to rugby, so when I started uni, I joined the Islamic Society, which, in uni had loads of different societies. And I thought, actually, I want to spend time with sisters who have the same faith as me, and I can go out and eat with them and just have a little bonding. Because I knew that if I didn't have that sort of company, it would make me feel really far away, distance, being in university. So it came to a time where I kind of felt like I was juggling two different identities, like Z, the rugby player, Z, the Muslim girl, and it was just like, which way do I go? It was very heavy, and I thought, I don't know anyone that's done this before, managing being a Muslim and playing rugby. How does it happen? How do you navigate this? So that was very
How
tough.
did you navigate that?
I don't know. I don't know how I did it. It just happened, and I feel like I've created my own path. I've created something that suits me because I literally didn't see anyone that did it. I remember being on campus, and I think I just finished praying, yeah, because I pray 5 times a day as a Muslim, and seeing the rugby girls. I think they had a stall and they're trying to recruit people, and I thought, okay, I was scared to go up to them because I just finished praying with my girls, and I was in like my long dress, and it's different to what they would see me in on the rugby pitch. So I was quite nervous to sort of approach them, and I thought, this is me, like, I need them to see me in my natural state. This is how I am. This is, if I'm not on the rugby pitch, this is sort of who I am. And I went over and I said hi, and we didn't recognize you. How are you doing? And it was just fine. But I built up so much anxiety, but the reality, it was actually just fine. And yeah, I think from then on, I felt a bit more confident within myself.
See, did you when you were going through all of this and in a way learning to adjust, learning what your identity is and was, learning to accept yourself as well. What sort of reception did you get, as a young person on the field, given that you did look different?
I don't think anyone really. I think within rugby, it's such a space that people don't really care. Actually, I feel like at that time I was putting unnecessary pressure on myself because I wasn't confident in my own identity, so I couldn't I couldn't project that. But the only thing I felt like helped me was when I became more clued up with who I am. it helps me on my journey, because I think there's something powerful about knowing who you are and your identity. No matter what situation you find yourself in, you can cope because you know who you are.
How old were
Um,
you, do you think, when you got to that point of self-knowledge?
I think 21.
That's pretty
When
good.
when I finished uni, I think the university experience helped me to find myself, actually. So I'm actually grateful that I went through that. And you talked about sort of differences, and the drinking culture was a shock to me, actually, because I was playing under 18s rugby up until that point, and there was not really much alcohol involved because we're underage. But when I got to uni, it was like a mixture of university culture, freshers getting drunk on a night out all the time, and then there was rugby culture. After the games, they do things like person or player of the match, and you have to down the pint. And I used to get player of the match quite quite a lot of times, and I used to stand there and reject a pint because
What did
I
you
didn't
have
drink. And
instead?
well, I had to nominate someone else to have the
Okay.
drink.
I hope you got
Yeah,
something else,
and
though.
no, actually, I didn't. But at that point, they didn't. I don't think my teammates actually knew why. I don't think they knew. I think they were really clueless, and I didn't tell them point blank. I didn't drink because of my faith. I was so scared to tell them because I felt that it would distance. It would make me feel more distant than I already did, and it would be admitting to myself and them that I'm different, and I didn't want that. So I just kept quiet, and they probably thought I was really antisocial, and I'm really not. But because I never used to go to the socials, I never really used to interact with them off the pitch, because a lot of the things they did off the pitch was just alcohol, getting drunk, getting pissed, and it was just that's not me. So I distanced myself away from that. And rugby is such a sport. If you don't when you bond off the pitch, it translates to good play on the pitch. It's a type of game where when you're all on the same wavelength, and you're all best of friends, and you're having that camaraderie, it shows on the pitch. And I wasn't getting that, and I'll turn up to games, and they could be talking about what happened last night, and I would not even have a clue because I wasn't there. So that was a bit tough. But I just went there to play rugby, and then I left. That's all it was, really. But they were a lovely bunch of girls, lovely.
So, having, been part of different teams, what is the status today? Do you think people are more accepting? Are they more inclusive? All these big narratives that we talk about, in the mainstream today. What is your experience if you coming up to the present?
I think it's changed a lot since I first started. The team that I play for currently is probably the most diverse team I've ever been in. And the fact that I play for Richmond women, and the fact that they're in the championship as well, so they're higher. This is sort of the highest level of rugby I've been at so far, and to see that the type of inclusivity is just amazing, and hopefully it can only get better. For example, I was open to them about my faith, and I said, as a Muslim, I pray 5 times a day. So, if possible, would I be able to have a prayer space? And they sorted it out straight away. They gave me a prayer space, which I now use at the club, and it just meant so much because I've never had that. And now I'm confident within who I am that I can actually ask, can I have somewhere to pray? Whereas before, I would not have been able to ask anyone. I just kept what I did to myself, my prayers, my faith to myself. I never let it out or expressed it to anyone. But now I feel confident in doing so. And the reason is because I realise that I'm blazing my own trail, I'm starting my own path, and I need to do what's right for people that are like me, that are coming after me. I need to make sure this path is okay for them. So being confident who I am and asking for things like prayer spaces, it's not just about for me, but it's for the girls that are going to come after me, making sure it's easier for them.
Totally. Totally. And also you being an example and a role model, which I know is something very, very important to you, which we're going to come on to, but it's also showing that you have to ask. As I always say, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And we have to ask.
Exactly.
Tell me, see, how important in your life is your family's Ghanaian tradition and background?
Oh, really important. I think it's Dee, I'm a mix of things really. And sometimes when I sit and think about it, it's never ending. I've got the faith, I've got the African culture, and then I've got the British culture with tea. I
I
love my
know
Earl
you
Grey. I
do.
tell everyone about my
Your
But
twinings.
yeah, the Ghanaian culture is massive. Yeah, exactly. That's the brand that I love. I'm hoping they'll sponsor
Okay,
me actually, Dee. So
listen. Well,
maybe if
we
they
have to
hear
get
us on this
working on that,
podcast.
okay?
But yeah, so my Ghanaian culture plays a massive role in who I am and what I stand for. I actually went to school in Ghana for a couple of years as a kid, and it's just it plays a massive role. Like the food, the music, the culture is just part of who I am, and having both parents who are born and bred in Ghana, obviously they've influenced me a lot in sort of the way I've grown up. And actually, on that, my dad, when I told him that I wanted to play rugby, he was just like, "Why?" He couldn't understand. And I guess in Ghana, like rugby is not really it's a new sport, and I'm guessing when he grew up, he probably never heard of rugby in Ghana. So he just couldn't understand why his daughter wanted to play rugby, and he actually said. Well, I mean, he said it was a man's sport and it was elitist. Those are the two things that he said. But now he shouts from the rooftop that his daughter plays rugby.
I bet they're super proud of you. And, in many ways, and you've said this yourself, Z, you don't fit the typical African Muslim stereotype. And, of the woman at home cooking, cleaning, having children. I mean, it's all very, very cliched, but I guess to some extent that's how people see it. You're smashing those stereotypes. What does this mean to you practically to smash the stereotypes?
It means that I'm the bulldozer.
So I want to talk about this. Tell me about
Yeah.
why you're called the bulldozer. I know it's a huge compliment, but talk me through.
Yeah. So the bulldozer started off when I was at Millwall Rugby Club, and it was actually nothing to do with. It was just a move, In rugby, we had different plays, different moves that we do, and there was a move called a bulldozer that involved me picking up the ball and just running through people.
What position was that?
So that was at number 8.
Right.
So it involved the number 8 at the back of the scrum and running into the opposition's number 10. That was the move, bulldozer move. I'm sure they've changed the name now, but so that just became, what I did. But then I had a thought and I was like, do you know what? I really like that name. And actually, I can relate to it because of who I am and what I'm trying to do. So obviously a bulldozer is a construction equipment that smashes things and demolishes things, in construction. But for me, I feel like I'm sort of, that's me as a metaphor for who I am. So I'm a black Muslim woman, I've got kids, I'm, career woman, and I'm in the rugby space. That's a lot of things that stereotypes I'm smashing by just existing in rugby. So that's why I love the name Bulldozer, and it just fits who I am and what I'm trying to do. But I don't tell the opposition that because it seems a bit soft. So if they hear bulldozer, then they probably think, "Oh, I'm going to smash 3 people." But that's not my take on it. My take is just a bit more. It's different, yeah.
Clearly, you enjoy being a bulldozer at some level. Do you feel you have to be one?
Um, I don't think so. I don't feel pressure to be anything. Like a lot of people ask me, like, do you feel pressure to play rugby to inspire Muslim girls or to inspire different communities? And I think no, I just play rugby because I love it, and if I happen to inspire them, then that's amazing. And I guess that's what the inspiration is. I think following my passion is enough inspiration, and that's the key that is gonna tap into all the other communities and all the other people who are not similar to me. It will help them to understand what I'm doing. It's just that passion for something that you love.
See, you've gone through a lot of change on your rugby journey and have probably changed as a person. Do you feel you're reinventing rugby in some way, in some philosophical way?
I feel like I'm reinventing myself actually,
And what does that mean
and
for
then
you?
and then maybe rugby's being I'm showing a different path to rugby. So for me, I feel like I've always been a person that like to help others, like to give. A lot of my, obviously being a nurse, so I have to give to the infants that I'm looking after, the parents, my colleagues, and then also as a wife and a mother, I'm giving to my family as well. Rugby for me, it's something that it is the opposite. It gives me stuff. It gives me confidence. It gives me empowerment. It gives me resilience. And it's given me so much things that I guess in other aspects of my life would make me feel, how would I say, inadequate is probably a strong word, but the rugby, there's a lot of things that maybe in the real world you shy away from, like, being sweaty, being called a beast, being strong as a woman, being physical as a woman. But I feel like with rugby, it embraces those things. So if you're a girl that is, strong, you've got muscles, you're athletic, you're sweaty, you're all these things. Rugby likes that and embraces that, whereas in the outside world, it's probably something that people look down upon.
How do you feel when you're on the pitch? Do you feel like it's the real you?
Oh, absolutely. I feel empowered. I feel confident. I feel like it's a free, for me, it's expression. It's expressing myself when I'm on the pitch. I feel like I'm expressing
It's
myself.
like your stage, right?
Yeah, it's like my stage. Um, and it's exhilarating. I feel free because on the rugby pitch, I leave all of my life, worries at the side of the pitch. I go on, put my scrum cap on, and I'm the Bulldozer, and I'm just doing my thing.
And tell me, what so far has been your biggest challenge in life?
Wow, that's a big question. The biggest challenge in my life, I think coming to terms with my identity was probably quite challenging because those times, pre-uni and during uni, being really unsure about my identity was tough. But once I understood who I was and what I stand for, life just became a bit more easier. So I think that was difficult. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the toughest time.
It's almost like simplification of life, isn't it? Where you work out who you are and what matters and what brings meaning, that the rest just becomes superfluous, right? When you know who you are and you're grounded in that, and you have been on that existential journey as well, it feels like to me. Now, so you, like many successful people, make it look easy and, you get on with it and so forth. But you're a mother, a wife, you've got 3 young children. Up until recently, you have been working in intensive care as a neonatal nurse, which is not exactly a relaxed or stress-free role. How have you managed to do all of that and still play rugby?
um, do you know what? It's a nice balance. I feel like the rugby helps me to have resilience and to manage my duties as a nurse. Similarly, my duties as a nurse help me in rugby because it makes me, you build up a lot of stress as a nurse, I can't lie to you, but working for the NHS is very stressful, but I get on the rugby pitch and all those stresses are released. So they both complement each other. And I actually remember someone asking me, how can you be a nurse and play rugby? And I thought, well, I don't go around tackling the babies, do I?
That's
And
quite.
I just thought,
Or
you're
annoying
right. And I just
parents.
thought, exactly, yeah. I just thought the answer to that was it's just having the passion for both. My story being a neonate myself, really, that was sort of the burning desire for me to actually become a neonatal nurse because of the way, my mum and my parents would tell me how they looked after me, and actually being born early, my chances of survival weren't that great. And because of them, I managed to survive. So I kind of felt like I needed to give back to them. So from a very young age, I just knew straight away I wanted to do neonatal nurse again. I'm grateful that I was happy, I was able to do that and graduate as a nurse. And even if I helped one baby, like that would have been, that meant the world
What
to
have you
me.
brought from your nursing career to the pitch?
I would say the ability to control my emotions, because the neonatal world is very up and down. You look after babies and their parents, and sometimes you discharge them and they come in sick. You discharge them, you see them happy, they're leaving the hospital. Other times, unfortunately, they don't get to go home and unfortunately pass away, which is tough, emotionally. And I think as a nurse, you have to be strong, because you're working with their parents and their families, and if you can't be strong for them, then who else do they have? So you have to be. So controlling my emotions, I feel like in work has helped me on the pitch. Similarly, a pitch, things happen. The opposition may try and get in your head. You get tackled. You have to get back up. It's all of that resilience, that mental resilience, and nursing has really helped me on the rugby pitch. Really, the skills that you need to.
So, no, I absolutely. And see, tell me about, you as a role model. You often quote Billie Jean King, the fantastic, incredible tennis legend. You have to see it. The whole sort of the ethos of you have to see it to be it. You have to see it to believe it. And you've turned that into your own version. If you can't see it, be it. How do you actively, show yourself as a role model to young people? What message do you give them or want to send to them?
One thing that I've always said is to be yourself, like be as authentic as possible, because by doing that already, you're sort of giving someone else permission to be themselves. And that is it. We're in a world where, especially with social media, there's a lot of things that people put out there that are not really true to what they believe in and what their values are. And I guess a lot of it to do is fame and money. But if you're authentic to yourself, you stand by what you believe in, you have your values, the right people will want to hear from you, the right people will want to know you, the right people will come close to you. And I guess the ones that don't value what you have to say or don't believe in your values won't. So you're not losing out by being yourself. And it's easier, like it's very exhausting trying to be someone you're not. So my message is always just be who you are, be authentic, and the right people will be inspired by what you're doing and what you have to say.
Oh, 100%. And as I always say, why why be like everyone else when you can be yourself and be different? Because we are all different, right? We're all literally molecularly different from one another. So today, tell me about your dream of playing for England and so forth. Where are you? In on that road with that vision that you have.
So yeah, my dream for England, I'm at the beginning. Well, I would like to say begin. To be fair, I have done a little bit from there, but I do feel like I'm still at the beginning. I've got a long way to go. But I think the biggest part for me was actually admitting to myself that this is what I want to do.
Why was that the biggest
That was
part? Was that because you didn't allow yourself to admit it?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't allow myself to admit it, but it was actually a situation at work that helped me to realize that this is what I want to do. And it's being in the situations in the neonatal unit and during COVID, it was very tough. And working with looking after babies, newborn babies that were born extremely early because their mother had COVID and who was up in ICU fighting for her life. And it's like, you don't know whether or not mum's going to make it. And then I'm there looking after the baby. It was
I
very
can imagine.
quite tough situation to be in. And it just made me reflect on life, that life is too short. And you have to just, live your life to the fullest, and whatever you want to do, whatever dreams and goals you have, just do it, because you don't know what's going to happen around the corner.
So was that a pivotal point for you then, when you were in that experience, thinking, right, I'm just going to go
I
for it?
think it was definitely a pivotal point for me. And it was definitely a pivotal, because actually before then I already made an illustration, you know,
Which I love, by the
thank
way,
you.
behind
Thank
you.
you.
Is that a self-portrait?
Yeah, it's basically, yeah. So I put that out there, but in the beginning, it wasn't actually meant to be me. It was meant to be just anyone, but that can, basically look like me, but it wasn't specifically me. Could this person actually end up playing for England? And I put it out there on social media, and I got different responses, but a lot of people, like majority of people, were like, this is amazing. I want to see this happen one day, And then COVID happened. I had that situation, and then I thought, actually. And people were asking me, but why don't you do it, Z? Like, why? And I thought, I've got 3 kids. I'm working at NHS. I'm doing 12-hour shifts. How can that be me? And then I just had a change of heart during COVID. And I thought, actually, why not?
And how did that feel? That when you woke up or to that conclusion, the kind of why not?
I felt there's a lot of things. I felt scared. I felt free. I felt like it felt like a big event for me, because knowing my background, neonatal nursing is it's my dream job. But nursing, I mean, rugby's always been my passion. It was there before nursing. Rugby was I was playing rugby before I became a nurse. So that's always been in my background. I kind of say rugby's been a dear friend. It was with me, through my teenage years, through marriage, through, being a mum. Like, rugby's always been there for me. So, but the reason why I was scared, it was that I was scared of what other people would think, actually, if I'm honest with you.
Other people meaning who?
So just people like the rugby community. My family, like, I didn't really mind. I think that whatever I do, as long as I'm happy, they're fine. But it was people outside, like the rugby community, people that are in the sports and sporting community, just people around who are not my family. What would they think? About, would they feel like I can do it? Would they laugh at me? Would they feel like, she's got no chance, why is she even trying? So that's what was scary. But actually, everyone's been really supportive. Like, the support has been overwhelming. So then again, I think, actually, maybe it's just me putting that pressure on myself. And it's taken a lot. It was sort of a moment. It's so weird, because at the time as well, making this decision, I said to myself, I need to start coming out my comfort zone. And that decision was definitely way outside my comfort zone. Like, leaving nursing, which has been my comfort, which has been everything for me. Leaving nursing was a major step outside my comfort zone. And when I took the plunge, it was fine. And I thought, actually, I could have done this earlier, but I was too scared. And I'm so happy that I took the plunge, because I'm growing, not just as a person, but just, other people are growing with me. And if I didn't take that chance to leave nursing or to put nursing on hold, my life would be so much different.
How do you think, and I know it's relatively recent, but how do you think you've changed, having gone through that process, which was hard? And you had to take the leap, as I tend to say. You had to just chuck yourself out there and go for it. How are you different as a person today from a year ago?
I think I'm much more braver. Definitely, I've become more brave. And the Z that I knew a year ago, it's not the Z that's here now. I don't know where she's gone. I feel like I'm looking at life so much differently now, and I feel like I'm a bit more brave than I used to be. I'm doing things I've never thought that I'll do. Just. And the way I've captured this dream, before it was like, oh, it would be a good idea. Now I'm just immersing myself in this goal and this ambition. And this is not the Z a year ago we would have been too scared to do that. I've become more comfortable, more brave, and have more self-belief, I feel like, than I did before. yeah, which is so exciting to see. You know, I'm very excited with the person that I'm becoming, because I'm not, you know, I'm not finished evolving. I'm still evolving, but so far I'm impressed with her.
Same here, I have to say. How do you manage, though? I mean, I know it sounds quite banal because, working mothers, we work and we manage and we deal, but, you have three very young children. This is a big step for you career wise, with a lot of training and all sorts of other requirements that necessitate huge discipline, organization, and so forth on your part. How do you pull that in, particularly the days when it's a bit of a struggle?
I mean, I just get the Earl Grey out and have a tea, because, you know, they say cup of tea fixes everything. But no,
Coffee in my case.
oh, is it really? Oh, yeah. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's just one of those things. You just do it, you know. If you stop and think about why you're doing it, then it just consumes you. You know, it's one of those things. You just get on with it. And I know how much rugby has played a role in my life, in the sense that it's been a stress reliever. So whatever's happening at home with the kids or whatever, I can go on the pitch and I can release that energy, release that stress. So, you know, it just always works out in the end. And I think one of the biggest, like, questions that a lot of people ask me is, like, with my faith, like being a Muslim and playing rugby, like how? And I actually feel like there's so much comparison between my faith and rugby. And when I say that, people are like, how? Like, what do you mean? And I just said, let me explain. So, for example, you know, being a Muslim, we there's so many. Anyone can be a Muslim. Like, you can come from whatever black country, black, white, purple, blue. You know, people from different backgrounds are coming together to worship God, and we have a lot of, like, regulations and I guess, you know, rules that you follow within our religion, and you have to have discipline. You have to have respect for yourself, for community, for nature. Um, it's one of those. You have to be resilient. It's like a doing. It's a practical religion. You don't just say you're Muslim and that's it. You have to. It's a practical religion. Whereas, similarly with rugby, it has values. Discipline is one of its major values. Being able to respect your teammates, respect the referee is a massive thing. Respect in rugby, sportsmanship, teamwork, and those are the values that just coincide with my faith. That's why I feel like it's so easy. I feel so comfortable within rugby, because the things that my religion has taught me is the same thing that rugby is teaching me.
And it's a continuation of your life, isn't it? And your values, but on the pitch and not in the home or walking down the road or in an office and so forth. So, Z, if we look out to the next few years, you've got big ambitions for rugby. Where do you think you're going to be in 5 years' time in your
In
dream?
five Yeah, and do you know what? I would love to have gotten my first cap for England in 5 years' time. I know it's a very big and bold statement to make, but that's where I would love to be in 5 years' time. Um, and just thinking about the impact that it will have on just everyone, you know, like, I'm more than what you just see. I'm more than just a black Muslim woman, and, you know, I'm a mother, I'm a career woman, and there's so many people that can relate to me from different angles of my identity, that when it happens, it's gonna affect everyone, you know. um and people of Yeah, a lot of people don't. I guess I don't really talk much about the reason why I'm doing it. It's bigger than me. The reason for the stream is not really about me. Actually, it's bigger than me. It's about giving people the inspiration to follow their own dreams. And, you know, through being vocal of my dream, I've had a lot of inspirational messages. I mean, one person reached out and said, you know, I've seen how hard you're working at doing your dream. Like, I want to do my masters. I want to go and study. It's something that I've wanted to do, but I've been too scared. But because you're, you know, fighting for your goal, I want to do the same. And this is the kind of impact that I set out to do. You know, and the fact that I'm doing that and I'm not even I haven't even reached the goal yet. It just blows my mind, and I'm just happy. So
Well, it's about every stage and every day and every step of the journey, isn't it?
absolutely, absolutely.
And how you get there. And it's as simple and as difficult in a way as taking the first step. That is the crucial one, isn't it? Do you think, Z, that clearly the world is changing in many great ways, and you've seen a lot of change in your career in sport over the past 10 years or so since you've gone into rugby. Where are we, do you think, in terms of needing more change to get more Black women, more Black Muslim women into the sport? How much more needs to be done? Are things going in the right direction, basically?
Yeah, I think people are asking the right questions so far. And I think a lot of it, there's, diversity seems to be a buzzword a lot at the moment. And but it's about how do you actually work with that, not just saying, paying lip service, how to actually do things. And I think for me, growing up, the fact that I've never touched a rugby ball until I was 14 says a lot. So it's about going into the communities where rugby is not common and just, introducing them to rugby, and, it's starting from the bottom up. And I feel like I kind of feel very sad that, some people would have missed out on playing rugby just because of maybe the demographics and where they live, or access to rugby, which is very sad because rugby can give you so much, especially people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, or from you know deprived backgrounds, or ethnic minority backgrounds as well. It's just that camaraderie, that family like feeling you get from rugby can do so much for someone that's going through a lot, or someone that's grown up in a tough life. So it just makes me sad that not everyone has had the experience to play rugby, because it's more than just a sport. It's a life changing game, and it's bigger than just a sport. It's more than just a sport. And I think visibility as well is a big thing. And I think that's part of my journey as well. I feel like when I get into that England shirt, that's me being visible on the highest, platform, the highest stage. And that will feed down to all those communities that I want to take rugby to. I feel like me getting that shirt, everything that I'm trying to do will just fall into place by just me getting that shirt. So I'm kind of killing thousands of birds with that one stone, if you like.
So, Z, well, we're obviously with you the whole way, but two final questions from me. What is the piece of advice you remember when you're having a tough day? And what is the piece of advice you give to others in that situation?
I think it's probably the same. The same piece of advice that I'd give myself is what I'd give to other people. And that is, with every difficulty comes ease. And I think it's sometimes you face certain situations and you feel like that's it, this is the end of the road, you can't cope, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, but there is. And I think this is even more so, especially because yesterday was World Mental Health Day, and I think there's a lot of people that are suffering from mental health and that have been through challenging times. I mean, even if you don't suffer from mental health, life throws things at you and you have to deal with it. And it's just remembering or telling yourself that there are better days to come, and no matter how much you're struggling now, it will pass. So yeah, with every difficulty comes ease, and actually that's the passage within my holy book that I keep dear to me, and I try to remember that every time I'm going through a tough time, and it's what I tell people if they're going through a tough time, that it will pass. And in that moment, it's very difficult to see, but sometimes you look back, and the ability to look back shows you've actually overcome so much. But you don't realise it until you come out the other end. So things will get easier.
Well, on those words, I wish you all the best from the bottom of my heart. It's been wonderful to hear your story today, and I look forward to the next stage of the adventure.
Thanks, Dee. I absolutely love speaking to you, and I think you've asked me so many thought-provoking questions, and I love that kind of thing because it makes me reflect on the kind of things that I need to be reflecting on. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Double Espresso with Dee, with me, Dee Sterling. If you enjoyed it, I'd love you to review and subscribe to the podcast so we can share these amazing stories with others. I'd also love to connect with you, so feel free to contact me via Instagram DM at @D_Espresso. Until the next time, au revoir.